Amtrak 501. Emergency, emergency, emergency. We are on the ground.
A train's first higher-speed run ends in a horrifying crash in Washington. Tonight, we're hearing from victims on the Amtrak.
When I looked around, there was windows and glass, and it was a very particular smell that I can't really describe.
And those who saved lives.
By far the largest event that I've ever been associated with, even at the hospital end.
As they tell us their stories.
We started to tilt, and you're just like, man, you're going way too fast to be tilting like this.
And then the train just tipped and screeched and then slammed.
Kind of felt like just like the end of the world.
What we've learned about the deadly Amtrak derailment. That's first on Fox.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Wayne Garcia.
And I'm Elizabeth Tin. Tonight, I-5 remains closed as crews work to clear away wreckage from that deadly Amtrak derailment, which killed 3 people.
We have live team coverage for you tonight. Fox 12's Brenna Kelly joins us in studio with the story of a man who jumped in to save people this morning. Bonnie Silkman is out at Union Station where that train was headed today.
But first, we want to get right out to Haley Rush. She joins us live tonight from DuPont, Washington, where the crash happened. Haley?
Well, Liz, Wayne, it's pretty unbelievable what I'm looking at out here. Let me step out of the way and show you after nearly 15 hours since that deadly derailment, and you can still see part of a train dangling off the bridge above I-5. You can see heavy equipment has been brought in as crews work to not only clear the scene, but try and find out what went wrong. It's not what anyone expected to happen, even first responders.
Something like this where train cars are precariously dangling over a freeway, that's something that we do tabletops on, and everybody comes in usually going, oh, that's not going to happen. Well, here we are. It's exactly what happens.
It was the first trip of a brand new Amtrak Cascades route meant to offer a faster and more direct route from Seattle to Portland. But at 7:30 this morning, the inaugural ride came to a devastating stop when 12 passenger cars and 1 engine jumped the tracks.
I was going around the curve. We started to tilt, and you're just like, man, you're going way too fast to be tilting like this.
And then the train just tipped and screeched and then slammed.
There were cars on both sides of the bridge falling onto the freeway. There appeared to be, it looked like a semi and a passenger truck that was underneath, the whole front end smashed in. I mean, it was a very brief moment, but that's what it looked like to me.
With 86 people on board, we're told 3 are confirmed dead. Paramedics also rushed dozens of people to local hospitals.
And you can never wrap your head around that. There's never an explanation for why I was walking up that hill and other people didn't.
It's still not clear what caused the deadly derailment.
I can tell you that it's being investigated by NTSB, and anything beyond that right now until their findings are out is pure speculation.
But an Amtrak spokesperson says the #1 focus right now, the victims and their loved ones.
Amtrak is going to do everything possible to take care of the passengers, employees, and their families affected by today's event.
I-5 southbound is still closed tonight, and that unfortunately won't change for the morning commute. There will be a detour in the area, but people are encouraged to take state highways instead of coming to this area. Reporting live from DuPont, Washington, Haley Rush, Fox 12 Oregon.
We are hearing stories of heroes who just jumped in to save people in the crash, including a surgeon who works at OHSU. In fact, he was one of the first on scene.
Yeah, that doctor was actually driving up I-5 towards Seattle when it happened. Fox 12's Brenna Kelly spoke with that doctor today, who shared how his training and experience was really put to good use.
Yeah, that's exactly right, guys. Dr. Selden tells me while he was driving up I-5, he saw southbound traffic slow down and then disappear. He says that's when he heard ambulances and knew something was wrong.
A surreal sight, unexpected for OHSU Dr. Nate Selden, who was on his way up I-5 to Seattle when he came upon the chaos.
I was worried about getting in the way, but as soon as I talked to one of the firemen and one of the police there, they said they really did need medical help with the teams.
And so Selden and his son jumped into action, helping wherever they could.
My son was with me, and he came over and helped, just talking to people, getting them over to the tents, lifting boxes that needed to be brought over with supplies, things like that.
This is a picture Selden tweeted from the scene after he helped the last of his patients onto an ambulance. He tells me there were already a dozen people in the triage area when he got there. Some walking, some being carried, all were distraught from the devastation.
Probably the worst was a young patient, young adult who had looked like a pretty significant pelvic fracture and leg fracture. Severe pain, but was conscious and talking with us, who got stabilized, boarded up, and sent to one of the surrounding trauma centers.
Selden says they needed him to examine people and identify their injuries, helping those who needed priority for the next available ambulance. He tells me there was a handful of off-duty emergency responders, like Selden himself, and members of the public who pulled over to see how they could help. Selden says this is by far the largest traumatic event he's ever been associated with.
I have stopped at a couple of accidents. I've never really been needed. I've helped, patients with chest pain on an airplane, things like that. This is completely unlike anything I've ever experienced, and honestly, probably unlike anything I ever will experience.
After Selden's last patients were loaded onto ambulances, he says he started making his way back to Portland. He says he's grateful for the expertise of the EMT crews and was glad he could lend a hand outside of his normal environment, which is OHSU. Reporting live in studio tonight, Brenna Kelly, Fox 12 Oregon.
Well, some survivors who were on the train finally did make it to the Rose City today.
Fox 12's Bonnie Silkman was there for that moment at Union Station in downtown Portland. Bonnie?
Well, Liz and Wayne, good evening. Now, this afternoon, we met up with 8 survivors. They were all on that train today, and they finally made it to Portland this afternoon by bus, and they looked very exhausted, still in shock. I'm sure most of them still processing exactly what happened today. Now, these 8 passengers, of course, have had a very long and traumatic day. That is exactly why the Red Cross was here, providing support, mental health, counseling, food, and transportation after what's been such a difficult day for so many. Now, we also spoke with a father waiting here at Union Station. Brett says his daughter was on that bus to Portland. He told us he was worried sick and just wanted his little girl to come home.
I do not know what car she was in. I tried to keep the questions to a minimum, knowing that I was blessed by her being alive and that all those questions would be just facts later. She was so distraught that she could not make everything out. That's how she was impacted.
Yeah, really a tough day for so many. And while we were here at Union Station, of course, the derailment was really the only thing people were talking about. But a lot of riders here said they felt uneasy about being on the tracks today. Take a listen.
It's scary. It's scary knowing that I got to get on the train the same day, not knowing the conditions of the rails or anything. It's just nerve-wracking.
And tonight inside of Union Station, we also spoke with one woman. She was sitting on the ground in tears, and when we asked her what was wrong, she said she was supposed to be on that train today but missed her ride because of scheduling issues. This, of course, just the beginning of many, many stories after today's heartbreaking derailment in Washington. For now, reporting live in downtown Portland, Bonnie Silkman, Fox 12 Oregon.
And this derailment having a huge impact on traffic. So many people travel along I-5. The southbound lane still closed as of right now in DuPont. Officials working quickly, but they still don't know when it will reopen.
Well, Fox 12's Pete Ferryman has a look, though, at some alternative routes.
The Washington Department of Transportation tweeted this out this afternoon that I-5 southbound in that area of DuPont would likely be closed through at least tomorrow morning. Officials say that's just an estimate. A definitive time has not been determined. Northbound lanes are open. Of course, they had asked that you leave those lanes open for emergency vehicles. Of course, the conditions have improved since then. The question becomes, what do you do, or if you or somebody you know needs to travel southbound? Now, there are some alternate routes, but they will take you some time. Here is one very long route that WashDOT suggests. You go up and over the Olympic Peninsula and then down to Tumwater. Usually, that would be about an hour and 20 minutes extra as far as a detour is concerned. But with so many people forced to take that route, It's going to take even longer, most probably. Another alternative is taking Tacoma down the 7 around the southeast part of Puget Sound, eventually winding up down in Grand Mound. This is going through the Yelm area. Another suggestion, and this one might be tough. I would imagine tickets are probably selling pretty quickly. Take a ferry to Bremerton, then head west of the trouble spot, and then get around it that way. Keep in mind, it's going to be slow going, whichever one of these options you choose. Also, we should point out that some airlines, such as Delta and Alaska, are offering discounts between Seattle and Portland right now. In studio, Pete Ferryman, Fox 12 Oregon.
10 o'clock news is just getting started.
When I stepped out, I didn't really realize I was standing on another train car.
We're hearing from more people who survived today's crash. Right after the break, our deadly derailment coverage continues. Plus, Congress trying to pass a new tax plan, and they have to stop the government from shutting down. They've got the latest on the last-minute and controversial moves.
Well, we need snow in the Cascades, and boy, it's going to deliver this week. We see more than a foot of snow. We'll let you know how much when it arrives and how low it goes, too. That's coming up in my First Live Local forecast.
Welcome back. We are following this breaking news and getting back to our live coverage of the deadly train derailment just outside of Seattle. Now giving you a live look at the scene there in the city of DuPont, and where some of the rail cars are still just dangling over and onto I-5. Again, southbound I-5 still closed now several hours after this happened at 7:30 this morning.
Yeah, they brought in the lights, and the one big difference you can see in that picture from what we've been showing you all day long is that huge crane that is now going to be used to move some of the cars underneath and also some of the train cars, try to get those righted.
Now with that, we're hearing from more passengers who were aboard that train, as well as the frightening moments it left on the tracks.
Fox 12's John Hendricks shares their stories now from DuPont.
To see all of this is pretty surreal. The pictures and videos that have come out are really tough to put into words, the damage that was caused. As this cleanup continues, we're hearing from more of those passengers who escaped all of this uninjured. In the dark of night, crews continue their work just south of DuPont, Washington, trying to remove more than a dozen damaged rail cars.
It was really alarming.
Emma Schaefer of Vancouver was taking a nap inside this train when, for whatever reason, 13 cars left the tracks Monday morning.
When I looked around, there was windows and glass, and it was a very particular smell that I can't really describe.
Amongst the chaos and mangled metal, she, along with 79 other passengers and 5 crew members, just tried to get out safely.
When I stepped out, I didn't really realize I was standing on another train car.
At the same time, Anthony Ramundi was also trying to escape.
One guy broke, he pushed the window out, because you can push those windows out. And then I helped him get down, and he helped me get down, and then we helped another person get down.
He was riding in the front of the train when all of a sudden it tilted to one side.
Just felt the train kind of leaning towards the side, and then pretty much everything went dark. And stuff started flying around, and that was pretty much it.
Once outside, they got a look at the damage and what they survived. With a bit of shock setting in, they continued on, saying that they were lucky to walk away.
It's a bit frazzled. I mean, I'm kind of hiding behind some like cavalier humor, but you know, it's gonna be a rough day.
Amtrak says that there were several cars and even a semi that were caught up in all of this on I-5 during this crash. It will take some time before that roadway is back open. Reporting in DuPont, John Hendricks, Fox 12 Oregon.
Coming up in a few minutes, we'll bring you more of our live coverage of the derailment. Also, we'll hear from a politician who predicted a deadly crash. And to keep you updated between newscasts, just go to our website, kptv.com.
Okay, Mark Nelson standing by right now with your weather forecast.
Well, it isn't Maui, but that said, it's 51 degrees here in Portland. What is it? It's 10:15, 10:18, no, it's 10:17. As low as even in the city, low 20. So it is just about time to start thinking about wrapping your pipes for this coming weekend.
We need you to come out slowly, your hands in the air, and with your hands empty.
Portland police confirm one person was shot in Northeast Portland near Northeast Sandy Boulevard and Fremont Street. Officers earlier tonight were asking people in a nearby home to come out That was as they tried to figure out if those people were involved. Now, originally, the people inside did not cooperate, but they did later on come out. Police say no additional victims were inside. The suspect, or suspects in this case, took off after the shooting. So if you know anything about this, call the non-emergency line.
The Thomas Fire in California continues to rage for the third week now. But despite the upcoming holidays, weary firefighters say they're determined to stay on the lines until the flames are out. Crews in Ventura County have been battling that fire since it broke out December 4th, saying they never thought it would last until Christmas. But despite not being home with their own families, firefighters say they are the lucky ones who have homes to go back to, when more than 700 other families had theirs completely destroyed.
It's what we sign up for as firefighters. It's the comings and goings of public safety. Sometimes we're home, sometimes we're not.
Well, about 8,400 firefighters from nearly a dozen states have battled that fire since it started. Costs have now surpassed $130 million.
Coming up, congressional Republicans are all in on tax reform.
Yeah, the bill's passage now within reach, but other measures need attention too as a government shutdown looms.
You start to see the roof kind of, peel. You're just like, is this ever going to stop? And it stopped. And when it stopped, it was completely black.
Survivors of the deadly Washington Amtrak derailment described their harrowing experiences.
Well, the clock is ticking up on Capitol Hill tonight. Congressional Republicans are eager to post their first major legislative victory of the year before heading home for the holiday break.
But as Karen Kafa reports for Fox 12, they also have to come up with a way to avoid a government shutdown before midnight Friday.
After months of bruising battles, congressional Republicans finally find themselves poised for a legislative victory. Early indications point to a sweeping tax reform bill passing both the House and Senate this week, heading to President Trump's desk.
This is a plan that can give a jolt to the economy, allow the economy to grow.
Senate leadership feeling more confident after Bob Corker of Tennessee said he'll vote yes. Corker repeatedly expressed concerns about adding to the federal deficit. Notably absent from the vote will be Senator John McCain, whose no vote sunk the GOP health care plan during the summer. The Arizona Republican is heading home as he recovers from brain cancer treatment. The tax vote isn't the only thing standing between Congress and a holiday break, however. A spending bill needs to be passed by midnight Friday to keep the federal government up and running. Republicans need some Democratic votes, but the GOP wants more defense spending, while Democrats want more money for domestic programs and a deal on the DACA program for young undocumented immigrants. Most lawmakers anticipate another short-term continuing resolution to avert a Friday shutdown rather than a comprehensive bill.
We need a budget agreement, a bipartisan, bicameral budget agreement. That will not happen before Friday. It will happen early in the new year.
Congressional aides expect members to stick around until late Friday to get everything done. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
This project was never needed and endangers our citizens.
A politician predicts a deadly train crash weeks before today's derailment. Why he says the route was a dangerous idea.
Plus, people rushed to help the victims of today's crash. What they did just hours after the derailment.
And later, a close call caught on camera what happened when a speeding driver headed straight towards a local deputy.
Welcome back, and now we continue to follow breaking news out of DuPont, Washington. That's where an Amtrak train derailed early this morning onto I-5. The crash killing at least 3 people and hurting 100 more.
Federal investigators are trying to find out right now what went wrong 15 hours after that deadly train derailment. The scene isn't even close to being cleared. Let's get right to Fox 12's Haley Rush now. She's live in DuPont, Washington over I-5 with the very latest. Haley?
Well, Wayne, Liz, now that all the passengers are out of the train, the next step is cleanup. I want to step out of the way and show you here. You can see heavy machinery has come in and they've brought it in to start clearing I-5. We're also waiting to hear what caused the train to topple off the tracks. With 86 people on board, Amtrak train 501 left Seattle at 6 this morning, bound for Portland. It was the first trip of a brand new Amtrak Cascades route meant to offer a faster and more direct route from Seattle to Portland. But at 7:30, 12 passenger cars and 1 engine jumped the tracks, falling onto cars on I-5 below. We're told 3 people died. Dozens others were rushed to the hospital.
You start to see the roof kind of, peel. You're just like, is this ever going to stop? And it stopped. And when it stopped, it was completely black.
NTSB is investigating the crash while crews work to clear the scene. Unfortunately, I-5 southbound is still expected to be closed tomorrow morning. That means commuters will have to find a new route, preferably state highways. Now, I-5 northbound, however, is moving smoothly and it should be expected to remain open. Reporting live from DuPont, Washington, Haley Rush, Fox 12 Oregon.
Something we do know, this Amtrak train, it was on a new route and was making its first run as part of a higher speed service that local authorities had warned, though, could be dangerous.
Fox 12's Brian McMillan has a look at that new route and the reason for the change.
The new route was designed to speed up service by removing passenger trains from a route along the Puget Sound that's bogged down by curves, single-track tunnels, and freight traffic. You see that green area right here? That's the route that most people have taken over the past several years. Now, this plan would save about 10 minutes of travel time. You could see the orange area here is the WashDOT project area, and the blue line right here is the bypass. This is the Sound Transit improvement area right here, and that is along that is where the derailment happened. State Department of Transportation posted information about the project online that says the maximum speed along that stretch of track is 79 miles per hour. The project cost more than $180 million and construction had been going on for years. We talked to one woman who lives alongside the tracks.
Built it for the last probably 3 years, and we've lived here for 30 years. And we have 5 acres, and this trestle or the train goes right in our backyard. I'm just wondering if they did any dry runs on this before the passengers aboard.
The mayor of Lakewood, Washington, a city along the route, predicted a deadly crash. Earlier this month, the mayor raised safety concerns about the new train route.
Come back when there is that accident and try to justify not putting in those safety enhancements. Or you can go back now and advocate for the money to do it, because this project was never needed and endangers our citizens.
The Seattle Times spoke to Mayor Don Anderson today. He said, quote, "I didn't predict a time, but I did say somebody is going to get killed. I hope that wasn't right. The principal risk we identified was actually the number of crossings and the lack of familiarity people had in the area with trains. We thought a train-vehicle collision was virtually inevitable." Anderson said the city's primary concern was the number of at-grade railroad crossings along the new railroad. Those are the kinds of crossings where you see the flashing red lights, like right here. You see these in Portland a lot. Sometimes the gate comes down and sometimes you hear a bell. Well, Anderson also asked for more grade separations like overpasses to keep trains and cars away from each other as much as possible. In studio, Brian McMillan, Fox 12 Oregon.
Today also marked the inaugural run of the new route for northbound trains. Earlier today, we spoke with a Portland man who was just minutes away from crossing the section of track where the derailment happened. Brad McMahon is a regular train commuter who was left Portland at 6:20 this morning, headed to Seattle. He says that when they reached Centralia, the train stopped. The conductor made an announcement saying that there was trouble on the tracks ahead.
That sliding door moment, you know, where you could have been up here already, or I could have come up last night and been on that train heading down back home for the holidays. And you think about all that stuff with your family and this time of year in particular.
Mann says that there were quite a few Amtrak workers on that northbound train who were visibly shaken when they heard the news. He says many of them expressed concern about Amtrak executives who they said were on the southbound train to showcase that new route.
You know, today's event's an example how people all around us have stepped up asking how they can help out in whatever way that they could.
They sure have. Bloodworks Northwest put out the call. They asked people to make a difference by donating blood, and Fox 12's Brenna Kelly has a look right now inside the Olympia Center where the line really wrapped around the building today.
Yeah, absolutely did. Donors we spoke with say they waited in line for hours after hearing about the train derailment. They say there was hundreds of people just at this location alone. Take a look. This is at Olympia Bloodworks Northwest. They're the organization that helps deliver blood to many hospitals in Western Washington and Oregon. Donors tell us an event like this really shows how strong a community is when they come together.
I rushed over. Yeah, thought I'd help out however I could.
The families that are dealing with the losses and the injuries so close to Christmas, I mean, it's a week away, and that's what motivated me to come down here. I haven't had a day off in 2 weeks, and I'm like, okay, well, I still would rather come down here than sit at home.
Bloodworks Northwest tweeted out saying they've issued more than 150 units of blood because of this Amtrak crash, and though they said their immediate need was met today, they still need donations through the rest of the week. The center says it's critical to replenish local blood supply for the holidays. Reporting live in studio tonight, Brenna Kelly, Fox 12 Oregon.
Now, the president reacting to today's deadly derailment, he tweeted about it, saying his soon-to-be submitted infrastructure plan must be approved quickly. Then he spoke of the derailment during a speech on his national security strategy.
Let me begin by expressing our deepest sympathies and most heartfelt prayers for the victims of the train derailment in Washington state. We are closely monitoring the situation and coordinating with local authorities. It is all the more reason why we must start immediately fixing the infrastructure of the United States.
Also speaking, Washington Congressman Denny Heck, who represents that area.
We all have to send our thoughts and prayers to the victims of this incredible, horrific tragedy. And the fact of the matter is that this crash site is just a few miles south of one of the most congested parts of I-5 in all of that distance. So we're talking about something that is fundamentally important to the movement of people and commerce in the area, having been impacted here.
Representative Heck also said he's disappointed that his district does not have safer trains.
Today's train derailment in Washington is also slowing down shipping services at the post office. This on the busiest shipping week of the year across the country. Ron Scher with the U.S. Postal Service for Portland District tells us they expect to process about 310 million pieces in the Portland area alone from Thanksgiving through New Year's. Scher says it's too early to tell the impact of today's derailment and what that'll have on shipping, but if you want your package to arrive by Christmas Day, Scher advises you to send out as soon as you can via priority mail or express by Friday.
Amtrak says it is saddened by today's derailment and is doing everything possible to help out investigators. Amtrak officials had a phone conference earlier today telling reporters that they'll be focusing on their passengers and employees first.
I want to be clear on behalf of all of us here that we will do everything in our power to support our passengers, their loved ones, their families, our employees. I've made it clear to all the folks at Amtrak that no expense will be spared to help the people that were injured and the folks who lost their lives on this train.
Amtrak CEO declined to comment, though, on any specifics about what happened, only saying that he'll leave it to investigators.
Coming up in just a few minutes, we'll continue our coverage of the derailment. Plus, we'll take a look back at some recent Amtrak crashes and keep you updated between newscasts. You can always head to our website. That's kptv.com.
All right, let's get a look at our weather with Chief Meteorologist Mark Nelson. And just think, was it just a few days ago you were doing the copy and paste on those sunny, dry days? And
yeah, pretty
some
easy
changes
forecasting.
happened.
Yeah, kind of implying I was lazy, which was kind of true. I mean, it was really easy, and it's going to get that way again. But we have one weather system squeaking through tomorrow, and it's warm now, but boy, once a cold front comes through, we're going to get tons of snow in the Cascades. Okay, feet might be a little bit dramatic, but we're getting well over a foot. Some spots could get 2 feet up there. Okay, we'll show you when the snow suddenly arrives at the passes coming up right after the break.
Welcome back, and we want to get back to our live coverage of today's deadly train derailment just outside of Seattle. And this happened in DuPont, Washington, south of Tacoma. The latest look right now, and you can see that heavy piece of equipment, that crane there, as investigators will stay through the night to assess the situation and also before they can begin the full cleanup process.
Well, today's derailment is just one of many major Amtrak crashes in recent years.
Fox 12's Caitlin Bolduc has a look at some other derailments.
Newly released information is shining a light on Amtrak's history of crashes in recent years. We've learned through the Associated Press that Amtrak was involved in at least 9 crashes since 2011. Those crashes happening across the nation. The most recent crash happened back in April of 2016. 2 maintenance workers were struck and killed by an Amtrak train going more than 100 miles per hour in Pennsylvania. The lead engine of the train derailed in that case. In March of 2016, an Amtrak train traveling from Los Angeles to Chicago derailed in Kansas, sending 5 cars off the tracks and injuring at least 32 people. Investigators concluded a cattle feed delivery truck hit the track and shifted at least a foot before the derailment. In May of 2015, Amtrak train 188 was traveling twice the 50-mile-per-hour speed limit as it hit a sharp curve in Philadelphia and derailed. 8 people were killed and more than 200 were injured when the locomotive and 4 of the train's 7 passenger cars jumped the tracks. Several cars overturned and ripped apart. In March of 2015, at least 55 people were injured when an Amtrak train bound from North Carolina to New Jersey derailed after colliding with an oversized tractor trailer that was struck on the tracks in North Carolina. These are just some of the most recent crashes that we found. Of course, investigators are still working to figure out exactly what happened in this case. The cause of the crash is still unknown. Certainly, Amtrak will have some serious questions to answer in the following hours as how something like this happened. Reporting in studio, Caitlin Bolduc, Fox 12 Oregon.
And we'll resume our live coverage of the derailment in just a few minutes. And to keep updated between newscasts, make sure you visit our website, kptv.com.
All right, let's get back to a longer look at our weather with Mark. And we were kind of joking about it, that it was a copy and paste situation, but really we had that streak of like sunny weather and changes finally did come.
And really, if you ignore tomorrow's storm, rainstorm and then snow in the mountains Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and we'll watch for any changes coming up on Christmas Day. Liz and Wayne.
All right, Mark, thank you. Now to something caught on camera, a local deputy's close call with the speeding driver. The Clackamas County Sheriff's Office tweeted out this video this morning, and you'll see on this deputy's dash cam this oncoming car just passing traffic, and it looks like it's speeding too. The driver of a Corvette, we're told, was going 105 miles an hour along Highway 224, even closely hitting the deputy head on. Now that didn't happen, and the deputy was able to catch up with that driver. And then in a tweet, the deputy advised him about his poor decision making.
Well, the Timbers took to Twitter to welcome their brand new head coach. As we reported, the Timbers were set to name recent New York Cosmos coach Giovanni Savarese to the post. Well, today it came to fruition. Savarese is now the 3rd head coach in Portland's MLS history, bringing with him 25 years of professional experience. He's replacing Caleb Porter, who was with the Timbers since 2012. Savarese will be formally introduced on January, and that'll be ahead of the 2018 season.
Well, even though its lights are back on following a costly blackout, problems continue for one of the world's busiest airports. People showed up to Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport today only to find, well, their flights are still canceled. Airlines saying they're busy working double time to play catch up after yesterday's outage, which forced them to cancel hundreds of flights. But rearranging them, you see, is causing additional cancellations to just slip through the cracks.
I hadn't heard about the power outage. I was here for holiday parties and so forth, and they just told me I may not be able to fly until Wednesday.
Hundreds of passengers who showed up for flights today say they were canceled without warning.
All right, coming up, the Salvation Army struck gold just in time for Christmas.
How a person buried treasure in a red kettle to help those in the community who need it most. The Salvation Army truck got struck gold, that is, in one of its red kettles over the weekend.
Yeah, the organization says a solid 1-ounce brick of gold was found in a red kettle at the Fred Meyer on Southeast Hawthorne. That was on Saturday. The bar was marked, stamped, and in a protective case. The Salvation Army says it will secure the gold and get it appraised by a professional. Experts say 1 ounce of gold is valued at about $1,200.
That's pretty nice. Well, the Spirit Mountain Casino spread some cheer to children at Dornbecker Children's Hospital today, and they dropped off a truckload of gifts just in time for the holidays. TP Freight Lines donated the truckload of toys this afternoon. Now on its 10th annual toy drive, casino guests donated a new toy in exchange for a free slot play. Spirit Mountain Casino was able to purchase $5,000 worth of toys for the kids, even an autographed guitar by Kenny Rogers and Rodney Carrington to be auctioned off at the Dornbecker's springtime auction.
Hey, we really love seeing your holiday photos. Just post them on social media. Make sure you use the hashtag Fox12Festive. That's all one word. All right, still to come tonight.
Well, it's been more than 15 hours since that deadly derailment, and I want to step out of the way and show you, you can still see a part of a train dangling off the bridge above I-5, and heavy equipment has been brought in as crews work to not only clear the scene, but try and find out what went wrong. We'll have much more on this tonight at 11.
You're watching the 10 o'clock news. First, live, local.